Climate justice communities are frontline and fence-line communities who bear the brunt of the impacts, the toxic impacts of the fossil fuel economy. And so climate justice communities are the Gwich'en communities on the Arctic tundra, whose traditional lands are being melted out from them because of global warming. Climate justice communities are the communities in Richmond, California, who were able to stop the expansion of the Chevron refinery. Climate justice communities are the communities here in Southeast Portland who experience higher levels of air toxics than any other community in Portland, and those are the most diverse zip codes in Portland. And so climate justice is about racial justice, it's about workers' rights, and it's about restoring and repairing relationships with each other and with Mother Earth. Climate change is already happening, so one of the big questions that we have often is, oh, when is it going to happen? But it's already happening. It's happening because some people have hotter summers and other people are going to experience colder winters. My family on the East Coast lived through Hurricane Sandy. We had trees down on our yard we couldn't get out of the house, and there was no gas or electricity. So we luckily had a propane tank, and so we were able to cook food on the grill for several weeks, in sort of the rain and cold. Unusual season for barbecuing. So climate change is already real. The solutions to global warming already exist. We know what they are. It's reduce consumption, it's explore alternative fuel sources, don't continue to extract coal, ash, and gas and oil. What my friends in the climate justice movement say is keep the coal in the hole, keep the oil in the soil, keep the tar sands in the land. We don't need it. We already have the solutions to a better fuel economy and to reducing consumption. And we can do that by doing all of the things that sort of the mainstream green movement explores with us. But we also, as people of color, as low-income communities, we have our own traditions of using less, because we always recycled all our bags. We grew food in our backyard as an immigrant family. And so those are not things that anybody has to teach us, right? We just actually have to be encouraged to honor our own traditions and honor our own knowledge. I actually think the people who are going to have the most difficulty are the communities on the coastlines of Bangladesh and Vietnam and Samoa and the Philippines, when the typhoons are going to be blowing their houses down and flooding their homes, right? Or like the communities out in the far Rockaways that also had to deal with the same thing, the flooding and the loss of their homes, the loss of their lives. They're going to have a hard time, right? Not having an extra car is not actually that hard on your life, but they may have the money and the power to try and continue their lifestyle. But I think with the amount of people power that we're mobilizing, 310,000 people in New York City this morning, hundreds and thousands of protests all over the world today, and then the several protests that are happening here in Oregon and along the West Coast as we speak, that is people power. And that is a power that we saw shut down the WTO, right? We saw that people power can actually affect the just transition that we need. So we have the solutions and we're going to get there. So I feel like the question you're asking is, how are we going to get to scale? And I would say, the communities in Richmond were able to stop Chevron from expanding their refinery. In fact, they were able to say to Chevron, you actually have to pay us for all of the pollution that you're putting into the air because it's causing health problems. When there was a gas flare at the Richmond refinery, 15,000 people, mostly poor working class people, many people who didn't have health insurance, immigrants and refugees and black folks were in the hospital in the emergency room. So yeah, Chevron owes the Richmond community, right, for their health. But they were able to win. Likewise, in the Houston Shipping Channel, the communities organized there. There's a group called Texas Environmental Justice Advocacy Services, right? The Parras family is fantastic. They have been able to shut down chemical refineries so that people who fish and crab in the shipping channel are not eating the same amount of toxic pollution. Right? So what we call trans-local organizing is that these communities on the Gila River Indian Reservation who are able to stop a toxic waste dump from coming into their land are coordinating and supporting Latino communities in Kettleman City who also had a similar waste dump by the same company. And so trans-local organizing means that we build power with each other, but with the knowledge that comes from grassroots organizing and community organizing. And it's really powerful and it's really beautiful. And that's who I've been able to work with when we go to places like Cochabamba, Cancun, and Copenhagen. To stop the worst things from happening at the international level and at the local level, and then to create the solutions, right? We call that prefigurative organizing, to create the solutions that we need now. Just more collective work, right? Collective gardens, collective housing, taking the land out of a profit motive and actually creating community spaces that work for us. I'm so thankful to be in a place like Portland, where the community here is so vibrant and it's multi-generational. I think the will is here to stop the coal terminals from happening, to stop the oil trains from coming through, and to really be able to be a leading example of what a clean economy looks like. That doesn't hurt workers, that supports low-wage people to make a better life for them and their families. I think we can do it. It's a beautiful place to do it. And I think we're lucky because it's still a place that will be able to grow things. Whereas where I used to come from in California, it's getting drier and drier, and that's a real impact of global warming. So.